The emergency lights flashed red across the great hall of the Galactic Council. Ambassador HFY stood at the center podium, his blue skin pale with fear. Around him, representatives from dozens of alien species whispered in panic. The holographic display above showed a terrifying sight, entire star systems going dark one after another. "The Ravagers have taken the Kelon system," HFY announced, his voice shaking. "That makes 17 systems lost in the past month. Our combined fleets cannot stop them." The Ravagers were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. They were part machine, part living creature, and all hunger. They ate entire planets, turning the metal and rock into more of themselves. They absorbed any technology they touched, making it part of their growing swarm. Every weapon used against them only made them stronger. Commander Veltar of the Centauri Defense Force stood up. His forearms gestured wildly as he spoke. "My ships fought them at Beta Station. The Ravagers took our plasma cannons and used them against us within minutes. Our shield technology became part of their armor. How do we fight an enemy that becomes stronger every time we attack?" The hall erupted in frightened chatter. Species that had ruled space for thousands of years now faced extinction. The Arkoth Collective had lasted for 10 million years before the Ravagers destroyed their homeworld in 3 days. The crystal beings of Nexus Prime could reshape matter with their minds, but even they fell to the endless swarm. "What about the old weapons?" asked Dr. Kreeseth, her tentacles curling with worry. "The forbidden technologies from the last war?" "Already tried," replied General Moxhan grimly. "The Ravagers absorbed our quantum disruptors. They turned our reality bombs into toys. They learn from everything we throw at them." The debate continued for hours. Some suggested fleeing to the far edge of the galaxy. Others wanted to try building a great shield around the remaining worlds. A few spoke of surrender, hoping the Ravagers might spare some of them as servants or food sources. Finally, Ambassador HFY raised his hand for silence. The hall grew quiet except for the soft humming of life support systems. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "There is one option we have not discussed," he said. "One group we have not asked for help." "Who?" demanded Commander Veltar. "Every major civilization has already fallen or joined our alliance." HFY's large eyes looked around the room. He seemed to gather courage before speaking the words that would change everything. The humans. The silence that followed was complete. Not even the life support system seemed to make noise. Then the hall exploded into shouts of horror and disbelief. "The Deathworlders?" screamed Dr. Kreeseth. "Are you insane?" "They are quarantined for good reason," shouted General Moxhan. "Their entire planet is a death trap." "They turn everything into a weapon," added Commander Veltar. "They make friends with their predators. They eat poison for fun." HFY waited for the shouting to die down. Then he activated the holographic display. It showed a blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked beautiful from space, but the data scrolling beside it told a different story. "Earth," HFY said simply. "Average temperature swings of 60 degrees. Massive storms that can destroy cities. Earthquakes that split continents. Volcanoes that block out the sun. Oceans full of creatures that can swallow ships whole." The display changed to show images of Earth's wildlife. Massive predators with teeth like swords. Tiny insects that could kill with a single bite. Plants that could strangle a person in seconds. Every living thing on the planet seemed designed to kill everything else. Their own planet has been trying to kill them for millions of years. HFY continued. They survived by becoming more dangerous than everything around them. They made tools from the bones of their enemies. They tamed creatures that should have eaten them. They learned to fight in ways that no civilized being would ever consider. That is exactly why we cannot contact them. General Moxhan slammed his fist on his desk. "They are barely controlled chaos. They solve every problem with violence. And what has our civilization accomplished against the Ravagers?" HFY asked quietly. "We have lost 17 systems. Our greatest technologies have failed. Our most powerful weapons have been turned against us. Perhaps it is time to try chaos." The argument continued for another hour. Some species threatened to leave the Alliance if humans were contacted. Others worried that the humans might be worse than the Ravagers. A few suggested that the humans might simply ignore their call for help entirely. The vote was close. 23 species voted to contact Earth. 20 voted against. 2 abstained, too frightened to choose either option. Ambassador HFY personally composed the message. He kept it simple, knowing that humans had a reputation for preferring direct communication. The message would travel through quantum space and reach Earth in less than 6 hours. "Attention Earth government," the message began. "The Galactic Council requests immediate military assistance. Hostile force designated Ravagers threatens all life in galaxy. Conventional weapons ineffective. Enemy adapts to all known technology. 17 star systems already lost. Urgent assistance needed. Coordinates attached." He hesitated before adding the final line. "Please help us," the message was sent. Now all they could do was wait. Some council members suggested evacuating their families to the far edge of the galaxy, while they waited for a response. Others began making plans for guerrilla warfare if the humans refused to help. A few started writing surrender documents just in case. 6 hours passed. Then 7. At 8 hours, the communication system activated. A new message had arrived from Earth. The voice that came through the speakers was rough and confident. It spoke in basic Galactic with a strange accent that made some words sound harder and more violent. "Galactic Council, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your SOS. We are mobilizing the 3rd Fleet for immediate deployment to your coordinates. Estimated travel time, 6 standard cycles. We will bring everything we have." There was a pause, then the voice continued with what sounded almost like amusement. "Hang tight. The cavalry is coming." The transmission ended. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Ambassador HFY spoke the words that everyone was thinking. "What have we done?" Outside the Great Hall, the emergency lights continued to flash red. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Ravagers consumed another world. And from a small blue planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, humanity prepared for war. The Deathworlders were coming. The galaxy would never be the same again. For better or worse, the humans had answered the call. In 6 days, they would arrive with weapons and tactics that no civilized being could imagine. The only question now was whether they would save the galaxy or destroy what was left of it. Ambassador HFY looked out at the stars and wondered if he had just saved his people or doomed them all. But there was no going back now. The message had been sent and the humans were on their way. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the storm to arrive. 6 days after the emergency message was sent, space itself seemed to tear open at the edge of Vorthak territory. The hyperspace jump points lit up like angry stars as ship after ship dropped into normal space. The alien observers watching from their monitoring stations could not believe what their sensors were telling them. The human fleet was massive. Not just in numbers, but in sheer size. Their smallest ships were larger than most alien battlecruisers. Their largest vessels were so big that they bent space around them, creating gravity wells that pulled asteroids into orbit. "By the void," whispered sensor operator Nixval from his post on Observation Station 7. "How many ships are there?" His partner, Klymesh, checked the readings 3 times before answering. "Computer shows 412 vessels. But that cannot be right. No single planet could build so many ships." The human fleet spread out in a formation that looked like organized chaos. Their ships did not move in the clean, precise lines that civilized fleets used. Instead, they swarmed and flowed like a pack of predators surrounding prey. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. At the center of the formation was the flagship. It was a monster of black metal and glowing weapon ports. The name painted on its hull read UES Defiance in letters so large they could be seen from orbit. The ship looked like it had been built not just for war, but for the complete destruction of anything that opposed it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, studying the tactical displays. Around her, human crew members worked with quiet efficiency. They did not seem nervous or afraid. If anything, they looked eager. "Status report," Admiral Chen ordered. "All ships have jumped in successfully," reported Commander Jackson from the navigation station. "Fleet is forming attack pattern Delta 7. Weapon systems are charged and ready. Any sign of these Ravagers we keep hearing about?" "Long-range sensors show massive movement 3 systems away," answered Lieutenant Martinez from her sensor console. "Whatever they are big. Really big." Admiral Chen nodded. She had read the intelligence reports during the journey. The Ravagers sounded like a serious threat, but Earth had faced worse. During the asteroid wars, humanity had fought off mechanical swarms that consumed entire planets. The bioplague incident had taught them how to kill living ships that adapted to weapons. The humans had survived every horror their galaxy could throw at them. "Ma'am," Commander Jackson continued, We are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council fleet. They want to discuss joint battle plans. Put them through. The main screen showed Ambassador HFY standing on what looked like the bridge of an alien command ship. Behind him, other alien officers worked at stations that looked more like art pieces than military equipment. Everything was clean, elegant, and completely non-threatening. "Admiral Chen," HFY said, his voice full of relief. "Thank you for responding to our call. We are ready to coordinate our forces with yours." Admiral Chen looked at the alien fleet on her tactical display. 40 ships, all sleek and graceful, moving in perfect formation. They looked like they were designed for exploration, not war. "Ambassador, where are your weapons?" "Our weapons?" HFY looked confused. "We have plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, and shield penetrators. All the latest technology. I see those," Admiral Chen said patiently. "But where are your kinetic weapons? Your explosive devices? Your boarding equipment?" The aliens on the screen looked at each other in confusion. One of them, a being with 4 arms, leaned forward. "Kinetic weapons are primitive," he said. "We evolved past such crude tools thousands of years ago. Explosives are banned by 17 galactic treaties," added another. "No civilized species would use such dangerous devices. And boarding actions?" HFY shook his head. "We fight ship to ship. No one actually boards enemy vessels. That would be barbaric." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a comforting expression. "Ambassador, you and your people need to pull back, way back, at least 10 light minutes from the combat zone." "But we want to help," HFY protested. "Our ships have advanced shields and—" "Your ships are not built for the kind of fighting we do," Admiral Chen interrupted. "Trust me. Stay back and watch. Learn what war looks like when it is done by people who are really good at it." The transmission ended. Admiral Chen turned back to her crew. "Commander Jackson, signal the fleet. Operation Fury Road is go." "Ma'am, what if the Ravagers have adapted to kinetic weapons?" Admiral Chen's smile got wider. "Then we will adapt faster." The human fleet began to change formation. Supply ships moved to the rear and began deploying what looked like construction equipment. The warships spread out into hunting packs. Stranger vessels moved to positions that made no sense to anyone watching. One group of ships started building something in space. Metal frameworks expanded like deadly flowers. Within hours, they had constructed massive railguns that could fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. Other ships deployed weapon platforms that looked like they belonged in a mining operation. Not a space battle. The most disturbing ships were the ones labeled Special Operations. These vessels looked like they had been designed by someone with a very dark sense of humor. They bristled with tools that had no place on a military ship: mining lasers, industrial saws, welding torches, and what appeared to be construction explosives. "Admiral," Lieutenant Martinez called from her station, "I am reading massive energy signatures from the Ravager fleet. They will be here in 18 hours. "Perfect," Admiral Chen replied. "That gives us time to set up the welcome party." The human preparations continued through the night. They deployed sensor mines throughout the system. They positioned hunter-killer satellites at every jump point. They built fortress platforms around asteroids and turned moons into weapons. But the most impressive preparation was happening on the human ships themselves. The crews were not just checking weapons and running drills. They were modifying their equipment, improving their armor, and preparing for a kind of warfare that the galaxy had never seen. Marine units practiced boarding actions using power tools as weapons. Engineering teams rigged their own ships with explosive charges, ready to ram enemy vessels if needed. Pilots painted messages on their fighters that would have been considered war crimes by galactic standards. Ambassador HFY watched from his command ship, far behind the human fleet. His officers were running continuous scans, trying to understand what the humans were doing. "Sir," reported Sensor Officer Velka, "the humans appear to be turning their entire fleet into a weapons platform. They are connecting ships with energy cables and building what looks like a massive firing platform." "That is impossible," HFY said. "No fleet can function as a single weapon." "The humans seem to disagree, sir." On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Chen watched the preparations with satisfaction. Humanity had learned long ago that the best defense was overwhelming offense. They did not plan to fight the Ravagers. They planned to obliterate them. "Ma'am," Commander Jackson reported. "All ships report ready. Operation Fury Road is fully deployed." "Excellent. Now we wait for our guests to arrive." Admiral Chen looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there the Ravagers were coming. They had consumed star systems and defeated every military force they had encountered. They thought they were the ultimate predators. They were about to learn what real predators looked like. The humans were ready for war. And war was something they had been practicing for a very long time. The Ravagers arrived like a plague of metal and flesh. They dropped out of hyperspace in a formation that looked more like a growing cancer than a military fleet. Their ships were horrible to look at, twisted combinations of stolen technology and living tissue that pulsed with dark energy. Contacts. Lieutenant Martinez called from her sensor station. Massive fleet dropping in at grid 77 Alpha. Count is, Jesus Christ, there are thousands of them. Admiral Chen stood calmly on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the enemy fleet take shape on the main display. The Ravagers moved with purpose, their ships flowing together like drops of oil on water. As they moved, they sent out smaller vessels to scout the system. Size and composition? Admiral Chen asked. Largest ships are 15 kilometers long, Martinez reported. Composition appears to be mixed metal and biological components. Energy readings are... Wrong, ma'am. These things are not following normal physics. Nothing about this situation is normal, Lieutenant. Contact the fleet. All ships prepare for engagement. The human fleet spread out across the system like a net made of death. Unlike the Ravagers, they did not bunch together. Each ship group had its own mission, its own part of the plan. The aliens watching from the rear could see the humans moving with deadly precision. The first contact came when a Ravager scout ship encountered a human patrol group. The alien vessel was the size of a city, covered in weapons that had been stolen from a dozen different species. It moved toward the human ships with confidence, expecting them to flee or surrender like all the others. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the patrol group from her ship, the UES Hammer. It was not the largest human vessel, but it was built for one purpose: destroying things that needed to be destroyed. Target acquired, reported her weapons officer. Ravager scout ship bearing 21 Mark IV. Range 50,000 kilometers. What kind of weapons are they showing? Mixed bag, Captain. Plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, some kind of bioweapon that looks like it shoots acid. Pretty standard alien tech. Captain Vasquez smiled. Then they have not met us before. All ships initiate Hammer protocol. The human patrol group did something that shocked everyone watching. Instead of using energy weapons or high-tech missiles, they launched simple metal rods, thousands of them, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. The Ravager ship tried to adapt. Its biomechanical systems analyzed the incoming projectiles and prepared defenses, but there was nothing to adapt to. The rods were just chunks of metal moving very fast, no energy signatures to copy, no technology to steal, just kinetic energy and bad intentions. The first salvo punched through the Ravager ship like bullets through paper. The alien vessel tried to heal itself, but the humans kept firing. Rod after rod slammed into the hull, each impact releasing the energy of a small nuclear bomb. Target is trying to withdraw, the weapons officer reported. Negative, Captain Vasquez replied. Follow it. Keep firing until it stops moving. The Ravager scout died badly. Its biomechanical systems could not repair damage faster than the humans could inflict it. When it finally stopped moving, Captain Vasquez ordered her Marines to board the wreck. Ma'am, that could be dangerous, her first officer warned. We do not know what kind of defenses that thing might have. Then we will find out the hard way. Marines, you are cleared for boarding action. Bring your tools. The boarding party that attacked the dead Ravager ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They did not carry elegant energy weapons or sophisticated hacking devices. Instead, they brought chainsaws, plasma torches, mining explosives, and industrial power tools. Sergeant Mike Collins led the assault team through the twisted corridors of the alien ship. The walls were a nightmare mixture of metal and living tissue that pulsed with alien thoughts. Most soldiers would have been terrified. The humans seemed annoyed. Creepy alien hallways, Collins muttered into his radio. Why is it always creepy alien hallways? Private Johnson, bring the cutting torch. This wall is in our way. The Ravager ship tried to defend itself. Tendrils of living metal reached out to grab the humans. Acid leaked from the walls. Biomechanical guardians rose from the floor to attack the intruders. The human Marines dealt with each threat in the same way. Overwhelming violence applied with industrial equipment. Contact front, yelled Private Davis as something that looked like a metal spider dropped from the ceiling. Engaging with power tools? The sound of chainsaws and plasma cutters echoed through the ship. The humans moved through the alien vessel like they were demolishing a building, which was essentially what they were doing. They cut through walls, blew holes in floors, and welded doors shut to trap defenders. But the most terrifying thing about the human assault was not their weapons. It was their attitude. They were not afraid. If anything, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. "Sergeant," Private Johnson called over the radio, "I found something that looks like a control room. It is full of glowing brain things." "Outstanding. Set charges and blow it up." "Roger that." 40 seconds to detonation. The humans evacuated the ship just as their explosives turned the control room into scrap metal. The boarding action had taken less than an hour. An entire Ravager scout ship, something that had defeated alien fleets, had been destroyed by 12 humans with power tools. The effect on the main Ravager fleet was immediate and disturbing. Their biomechanical network carried the experience of the boarding action to every ship in the swarm. For the first time in their existence, the Ravagers experienced something new: fear. The collective consciousness that controlled the swarm tried to process what had happened. These humans did not fight like other species. They did not use sophisticated weapons that could be adapted and absorbed. They used simple, brutal tools and applied them with a level of violence that made no sense. Worse, the humans seemed to enjoy fighting. The Ravagers could sense emotions through their biomechanical network, and what they felt from the human boarders was not fear or desperation. It was excitement. These creatures liked destroying things. "Admiral," Lieutenant Martinez reported from the Defiance, "the Ravager fleet is changing formation. They appear to be hesitating." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet had stopped its advance and was clustering together in a defensive formation. This was not the behavior of a confident predator. This was the behavior of something that had just realized it might not be at the top of the food chain. "All ships," Admiral Chen announced over the fleet communication system. "The enemy is showing uncertainty. Time to show them what real uncertainty looks like. Begin Operation Swarm Killer." Across the human fleet, weapons came online that violated every treaty the galaxy had ever written: kinetic bombardment platforms that could crack moons, nuclear mines that turned space itself into a radioactive death zone, bioweapons designed specifically to kill living ships. But the humans' most effective weapon was still their attitude. They broadcast their boarding action on all frequencies, letting the Ravager collective consciousness experience the full horror of human combat doctrine. They sent messages challenging the aliens to single combat. They played loud music that made no sense but somehow conveyed pure aggression. "This is Admiral Chen to the Ravager fleet," she announced on an open channel. "You want to consume worlds? You want to absorb technology? Come and try to absorb this." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. The galaxy learned what war looked like when it was conducted by a species that had been fighting for survival since the day they crawled out of the oceans. The Ravagers had never encountered anything like it. For the first time in their existence, they began to retreat. But the humans were not interested in letting them go. The hunt was just beginning. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. For weeks, the human fleet pursued the Ravager swarm across 3 star systems, turning space itself into a battlefield. Every asteroid became a fortress, every moon became a weapons platform, and every piece of debris became a potential projectile. The humans fought with a style that horrified the watching alien observers. They did not simply destroy Ravager ships, they hunted them. Human wolf packs would separate individual vessels from the main swarm and tear them apart piece by piece. They used tactics that had no names in galactic military doctrine, because no civilized species had ever thought to try them. Status report. Admiral Chen ordered from the bridge of the Defiance. 3 weeks into the campaign, her ship showed signs of heavy fighting. Scorch marks covered the hull, and several weapon systems had been replaced with equipment salvaged from destroyed Ravager vessels. "Ma'am, our forces have eliminated approximately 60% of the Ravager fleet," Commander Jackson reported. "However, they are learning. The surviving ships are adapting faster than intelligence predicted." This was true. The Ravager collective consciousness was beginning to understand human tactics. They had started using kinetic weapons of their own, copying human designs but improving them with their biomechanical technology. Some Ravager ships now carried boarding parties equipped with tools similar to human power equipment. But the humans were adapting too. and they were better at it. "Ma'am?" Lieutenant Martinez called from her sensor station. "Long-range scouts are reporting something strange. The Ravagers appear to be gathering near the Nexus system. All surviving ships are converging on a single location." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display. The Nexus system contained an ancient space station that had been abandoned for millions of years. Intelligence reports suggested it might be some kind of construction facility from a dead civilization. "They are building something," she said grimly. "Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for deep strike operations." The human response was swift and decisive. Instead of waiting to see what the Ravagers were planning, they launched immediate raids against the Nexus system. Human stealth ships slipped past enemy patrols to gather intelligence. What they found was terrifying. The Ravagers were not just building new ships. They were constructing something that looked like a mobile planet. A massive sphere of biomechanical material that pulsed with dark energy. Intelligence estimates suggested it was large enough to hold the population of an entire star system. "It appears to be some kind of superorganism," Dr. Sarah Kim reported from the science vessel UES Discovery. "If completed, it could potentially consume entire solar systems in a matter of hours." Admiral Chen made a decision that would define the rest of the war. Instead of calling for reinforcements or retreating to develop countermeasures, she ordered a direct assault on the construction site. "All ships, prepare for Operation Deep Strike. We are going to destroy that thing before they finish building it." The attack plan was typical human military thinking. Simple, direct, and absolutely insane. The entire fleet would jump directly into the Nexus system and attack the construction site while it was still vulnerable. They would ignore the defending Ravager ships and focus everything on destroying the superorganism before it could be completed. "Ma'am," Commander Jackson said carefully, "intelligence shows over 2,000 Ravager ships defending the construction site. Our fleet has 400 vessels. The odds are not good." "The odds are never good," Admiral Chen replied. "That is why we win. Signal the fleet. We jump in 30 minutes." The human fleet assembled in attack formation. Unlike their earlier battles, this would not be a running fight or a siege. This would be a straight battle of annihilation. Either the humans would destroy the Ravager superorganism, or the entire human fleet would be wiped out trying. The jump into the Nexus system was the largest military operation in human history. 400 ships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously, already firing before they had fully materialized in normal space. The Ravager defenders were caught completely off guard. The battle that followed was chaos on a scale that defied description. Human ships dove through clouds of Ravager vessels, firing everything they had at the growing superorganism. Ravager bioships wrapped around human vessels like metal serpents, trying to crush them or absorb their technology. Captain Elena Vasquez found herself in command of a desperate boarding action against a Ravager construction ship. Her vessel, the UES Hammer, had been crippled by enemy fire, but she and her crew were far from finished. "All hands prepare for ramming speed," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We are going to board that thing the hard way." The Hammer accelerated directly toward the Ravager ship, using its own hull as a kinetic weapon. The impact tore both vessels apart, but it also gave Vasquez's Marines a direct route into the enemy ship's vital systems. "Marines, you know the drill," she ordered as her team prepared to board the enemy vessel. "Find their brain, blow it up, get out before the whole thing collapses." The boarding action was brutal even by human standards. The Ravager ship fought back with every weapon at its disposal, but the human Marines had learned to deal with biomechanical defenses. They moved through the alien vessel like a plague, destroying everything in their path. But the real battle was taking place around the superorganism itself. The massive sphere was protected by layers of defensive ships, but the humans had brought weapons specifically designed to crack large targets. "All bombardment ships, target the sphere's construction nodes," Admiral Chen ordered. "If we can disrupt the building process, the whole thing might collapse." The human fleet concentrated its fire on specific points around the sphere. Kinetic bombardment platforms launched tungsten rods at relativistic speeds. Nuclear mines created zones of radioactive death around the construction sites. Bioweapons designed to kill living tissue spread through the sphere's organic components. The Ravager collective consciousness began to panic. For the first time in their existence, they faced the possibility of complete defeat. The superorganism that was supposed to guarantee their victory was being destroyed before their eyes. In desperation, the Ravagers tried something they had never attempted before. Instead of adapting human technology, they tried to copy human tactics. Ravager bioships began ramming human vessels. Alien boarding parties attacked human ships using tools copied from human designs. But they made one critical mistake. They tried to copy human aggression without understanding where it came from. Humans were aggressive because they had spent millions of years fighting for survival on a planet that wanted to kill them. The Ravagers were aggressive because they thought it would help them win. The difference was everything. Commander Jackson, leading a desperate defense of the Defiance's engineering section against Ravager boarders, put it best when he said, "You cannot copy what you do not understand, and you do not understand what it means to be human." The battle for the Nexus system lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Ravager superorganism was the expanding cloud of debris, and the alien fleet had been reduced to scattered remnants fleeing in all directions. The humans had won, but at a terrible cost. Over half their fleet had been destroyed or crippled. Thousands of human soldiers had died in boarding actions and ship-to-ship combat, but they had broken the Ravager threat once and for all. Admiral, Lieutenant Martinez reported, "Long-range sensors show the remaining Ravager ships are scattering in all directions. Their formation discipline has completely collapsed." Admiral Chen nodded. Without their collective consciousness to coordinate them, the surviving Ravagers would be nothing more than individual ships fleeing into the darkness. The threat to galactic civilization was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. The humans had shown what real warfare looked like, and the other species would have to live with that knowledge. The Deathworlders had saved them all. Now everyone would have to figure out what came next. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session for the second time in a year. But this time the emergency lights were not flashing red. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every major species, all gathered to discuss the same question: what to do about the humans. Ambassador HFY stood at the central podium, but he was not alone. Beside him stood Admiral Sarah Chen, still wearing her battle-scarred uniform from the Ravager War. Her presence made many of the alien delegates nervous, but no one dared ask her to leave. "The Ravager threat has been eliminated," HFY announced to the assembled delegates. "The scattered remnants pose no significant danger to galactic civilization." This victory was achieved entirely through the efforts of the human fleet, at tremendous cost to their own forces. The statistics were sobering. Of the 400 ships that had jumped into the Nexus system, only 150 had survived intact. Human casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands, but they had saved trillions of lives across dozens of species. "The question before us today," HFY continued, "is how the galaxy should respond to this new reality. Humanity has proven that they are not only our equals, but perhaps our superiors in the art of warfare." Commander Veltar of the Centauri Defense Force stood to speak. His forearms gestured as he addressed the assembly. "With respect, Ambassador, the humans did not save us through superior technology or ancient wisdom. They saved us through violence. Brutal, primitive violence. Effective violence," Admiral Chen corrected quietly. Her words carried across the silent hall. "The kind that works when nothing else will." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some species argued that humanity should be welcomed into galactic civilization with full honors. Others worried that the humans were too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. A few suggested that Earth should remain quarantined, but as an ally rather than a threat. Dr. Kreseth of the Velveron Science Council raised a tentacle to speak. "We have observed human behavior during the war. They do not fight to conquer or to absorb resources. They fight to protect. This suggests they might be natural guardians rather than natural predators. But their methods," protested General Moxhan. "They turn everything into a weapon. They solve problems with explosions. They board enemy ships with construction equipment. And it works," Admiral Chen pointed out. "Your elegant energy weapons were absorbed by the Ravagers. Your sophisticated tactics were countered within hours. Our crude kinetic weapons and primitive boarding actions destroyed them completely. The real breakthrough came when young Ambassador Cliveth of the Zephyrian Collective asked a simple question. Admiral Chen, what do humans want from the galaxy? Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. When she spoke, her words surprised everyone. Trade routes, cultural exchange, Access to new technologies, the same things everyone wants. We are not interested in conquest or domination. We have our own worlds to develop. But we are very interested in making sure that threats like the Ravagers never emerge again. And how would you ensure that? Asked Ambassador HFY. By creating a rapid response force, Admiral Chen replied. Ships and crews specifically designed to deal with existential threats to galactic civilization. Think of it as a fire department, but for hostile alien swarms and ancient weapons. The proposal that emerged from the emergency session was unprecedented in galactic history. The Galactic Defense Coalition would be established with Earth as a founding member. Human military advisors would train alien forces in unconventional warfare techniques. In exchange, humanity would gain access to galactic trade networks and advanced scientific knowledge. Most importantly, the human quarantine would be officially lifted. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign world with full diplomatic rights. Humans would be allowed to establish colonies and trading posts throughout civilized space. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 37 species voted in favor of the proposal, 8 voted against. 3 abstained, still uncertain about the wisdom of unleashing humanity on the galaxy. After the formal ceremony, Admiral Chen found herself in private conversation with Ambassador HFY in his diplomatic quarters. The alien leader seemed tired but relieved. I must ask, HFY said, why did humanity respond to our call for help? You had no obligation to us. We had quarantined your species for centuries. Admiral Chen smiled, and for once it was a warm expression rather than a threatening one. Because someone called for help and we heard them. That is what humans do. We answer the call. Even from strangers? Even from people who had rejected you? Especially then, Admiral Chen replied. Look, Ambassador, humans have a saying, no one gets left behind. It does not matter if you are our best friend or our worst enemy. If you are in trouble and ask for help, we will come. It is just who we are. The reconstruction of the galaxy began immediately. Human engineering teams helped rebuild worlds damaged by the Ravagers. Human medical personnel treated alien survivors using techniques learned during their own planet's endless disasters. Human teachers began showing alien military forces how to fight against threats that conventional wisdom could not handle. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed warfare itself. The elegant, civilized battles between energy shields and plasma weapons became a thing of the past. Now every species began developing kinetic weapons, explosive devices, and boarding equipment. Military academies started teaching courses on human tactical doctrine. Captain Elena Vasquez found herself in the strange position of being a military instructor at the Galactic War College. Her students were young officers from a dozen different species, all eager to learn the secrets of human combat effectiveness. The first thing you must understand, she told her class, is that humans do not fight fair. Fair fights are for sports and games. Real fights are about survival, and survival means using every advantage you can find. But surely there are rules, protested a young Centauri officer. Conventions of warfare that civilized beings must follow. There are, Vasquez agreed. But the enemy does not always follow them. The Ravagers certainly did not. When facing an existential threat, you must be prepared to do whatever it takes to protect your people. That might mean breaking conventions. That might mean using weapons that make you uncomfortable. That might mean boarding enemy ships with chainsaws and industrial explosives. The students looked shocked, but they took notes. Meanwhile, human exploration ships began moving through the galaxy, establishing trade routes and diplomatic contacts. They brought with them human culture, music that was too loud, food that was too spicy, and entertainment that was too violent. But they also brought human values, loyalty, determination, and an absolute refusal to abandon anyone in need. The galaxy learned to appreciate both aspects of humanity. Admiral Chen, now serving as the first human member of the Galactic Security Council, received regular reports on human activities throughout civilized space. The news was generally positive. Human traders were proving to be honest and reliable. Human colonists were adapting well to alien worlds. Human explorers were making contact with species that had been isolated for millennia. But the most satisfying reports came from the early warning stations positioned throughout the galaxy. Human-designed sensor networks watched for signs of new threats. Human-trained rapid response teams stood ready to deal with any crisis that might emerge. Ma'am, Commander Jackson reported during their weekly briefing. Monitoring Station 7 reports unusual energy readings in the Outer Rim. Could be another hostile species. Dispatch the Third Fleet. Admiral Chen ordered without hesitation. Full combat load. If someone needs help out there, we will provide it. If someone is causing trouble, we will end it. The human approach to galactic security was simple and effective. Be ready for anything, respond immediately to threats, and never let anyone face danger alone. It was not the most elegant solution, but it worked. As Ambassador HFY often said in his speeches to the Galactic Council, we learned that there are times when civilization needs barbarians, times when elegant solutions fail and crude methods succeed. The humans taught us that sometimes the best way to preserve peace is to be very, very good at war. The galaxy was safer now, not because threats had disappeared, but because humanity stood ready to answer any call for help. The Deathworlders had become the guardians of civilized space, and everyone slept a little better knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships patrolled the void, ready to face whatever horrors might emerge from the unknown. The age of human expansion had begun. The galaxy would never be boring again.